Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Science fiction, the great teacher, the great inspiration. It helps us see the endless possibilities of life. So let's be inspired together.
Permit me if you want to live.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the horizon, what's beyond our own shores.
We are not sending out interceptors. We have taken them completely by surprise.
Hey everybody, it's the Commodore. How you doing? Well, it's been an interesting a few days here, I guess, in Maine. Some nice weather and all that. Increased heat though, and humidity, and but people are out enjoying it and they're doing things, and it's funny how on the weekends the weather will take a nosedive there sometimes. You know, but this is Maine, and apparently there's some wildfires going on, and I don't know where, but I keep getting warnings on my Alexa app that there is a air quality warning, and for the last few days the air quality has been low, which probably accounts for all the sneezing that I've been doing. I don't have allergies. Okay, so my only answer to why I'm sneezing so much has got to be because of the air quality, and maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but you could see it in the sky when the sun is out in like noontime. It's a sort of a haze that goes over the sun. It's sunny, but it's sort of like sun trying to reflect through tinted glass or something. You know, like it's like an orangey, yellowish kind of piss color. You know, so yeah, we're getting smoke there from somewhere. I don't know where the wildfire is, but it must be pretty close to where our Maine is or something. I know last year they had that big one out in Canada, and it really made the sky look kind of dreary here. You know, it was sort of an orangey haze, and so yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we're having now, but. Anyway, though, it's still nice. Like I said, there's no cloud in the sky, and I can't smell the smoke, but you know, the thing this morning said, oh, beware, no, don't exert yourself, quality low. I mean, if you got lung problems or heart problems, don't exert yourself. And it's like, okay. And so just trying to be careful. So today I wanted to discuss something more I don't know, less dreary, okay, than what I usually talk about on my other videos. But today I wanted to do a movie review, and I don't know, maybe now's a good time. I guess I can talk about it because it's been out for a while, and now you can get it on streaming services and everything. So I think it's okay to talk about this film now. But I want to talk about the Captain America: Brave New World, that film that came out. It was really a good film. I liked it a lot. I know the critics shit all over it. If you look at Rotten Tomatoes, you're going to see the critics kind of, but the audience numbers are pretty high. So, you know, who cares what the critics think? If the audiences love it, that's what matters, because that's who's bringing in the fucking money, right? But I went to go see this when it the week it first came out, not the first day, but the week it first came out. Will you stop that? Come on. Yeah, so I saw this, and one of the draws to this movie, of course, was the fact that Harrison Ford would be in it, and I was like, that's interesting. Not that it's the first time Harrison Ford ever kind of acted in this sort of drama or this genre. Will you stop it? Stop it. But you know, it is an interesting thing to see him in a Marvel film where he's playing one of the main characters. Now, before I get onto that, I want to say that Anthony Mackie, who plays Sam Wilson, who's the new Captain America, did a spectacular job, I think, as a Captain America of his own. Basically, you know, he's a different kind of a Captain America, a one that, how can I say it? He's more cerebral than, say, you know, Chris Evans, I think it was, who did it before. But he's a guy, I mean, he's got no super abilities at all, except that he has technology, sort of like what Tony Stark was, you know, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, you know, in Iron Man. But he has this special, you know, suit that he wears where he can fly, and he has Captain America's old shield that he uses. And so he's sort of like, you know, doing, he's still like, he's like working for the government in a way. And he's just, like I said, he's different kind of Captain America. This guy, he has more of an intellectual approach to the role as character. And at the same time in this movie, you know, it's sort of like he's still fresh having to be Captain America, and he has doubts that he's doing a good job. And, you know, people have to remind him that, look, you were picked by Captain America to take his shield. He did that for a reason, and if he thought you could do the job, he wouldn't have given it to you, you know. So he's got that story arc going on in this in this film. Plus, he's got a sidekick who's also got a similar suit that he has, that he flies around and stuff and does things with. So it's you know, it's an interesting pair up, I think, you know, to see them together. And it was an interesting duo, you know. It's interesting, you know, how these two really have chemistry on the screen. These two actors, they really play it off well. You know, you don't feel like they have to share the screen time. It seems like, you know, it's kind of like the Batman Robin kind of duo. You know, together they are a force to be reckoned with, and it really played well in this film. I think the writers got it good, you know, on that. I know a lot of people, they thought the previous Marvel movies were lacking and stuff like that, but I think this one here was a much better story. And of course, Harrison Ford played a very good Thaddeus Ross, General Ross. He you know, he approached that in a very sort of a cerebral, humble kind of way, where you know Ross isn't a young man, okay, by this time, and he's president of the United States, and people have their doubts about the guy, okay, because he, as a general, he was you know, he'd run roughshod over things, and he was vicious, and you know, when you know, you've seen the character in previous Marvel films, each played by a different actor, but Harrison Ford really does make that transition into a older Thaddeus Ross, and unbeknownst to the character, he's being manipulated by the leader, which is played by Tim Blake Nelson, Samuel Stearns. He was actually in one of the Marvel Hulks. I think it was called The Incredible Hulk, where it had Edward Norton playing David Banner, or Bruce Banner, excuse me. He was in that film, and so this movie, this newer movie here, Brave New World, kind of picks up the threads from that film. So it kind of brings that movie into the franchise in a more way, and so so they bring him into this, and I thought that was a good way to, you know, include that movie, because it was, yeah, I thought The Incredible Hulk was a good film for the Hulk movies. For some reason, they just kept they made Hulk, okay, and then they made The Incredible Hulk, and when they started doing the Avengers, they kind of left those two films kind of off, like they never happened. But in this film, Brave New World, they sort of bring in that film into this thing, so it kind of brings it into the universe as a whole. So I thought it was a good way of tying up to that. And of course, Liv Tyler, she comes back as Betty Ross. She played that role in The Incredible Hulk, so she gets to come back, not in a big way, but just enough to kind of tie into that film. So I think that there was a lot of like mystery in this thing, because it's sort of like Captain America, Sam Wilson has to be a detective in this thing to find out what the hell's going on. Somebody tried to kill the president in a meeting because they, there's this thing that's in the water. It looks like a giant statue or something, and it has minerals that are in the comic book universe. I can't remember what is it, adamantium, I think, or something like that. And everybody in the world wants a piece of it, okay? And so he's like trying to broker some kind of deal with the allied nations to get it to them, but things are happening behind the scenes that President Ross isn't aware of, okay? And he's also a victim of this plot here by the leader, where he's taking these pills which he think are to help his heart or something like that. But they're medicine that was created by the leader to give him, that's laced with gamma radiation, which is slowly poisoning his body in the same way that Bruce Banner was poisoned by gamma radiation, only in the pill form it takes a little longer for its effects to work. And so in the movie, he doesn't know what's happening to him, okay? He doesn't understand what's going on. But then, like I said, towards the end, you find out, he's actually the Red Hulk. And when he finally loses it, because it's only in the third act of the film where you actually see him transform into the Red Hulk. And they do a pretty good job of making the Red Hulk, taking Harrison Ford's face and kind of putting it on the face of the Red Hulk, so you can see Harrison Ford in a way, in it. Of course, they did that too, with the other Hulks movies they did. But CGI today has come a long way where they can do this stuff. But the third act of the film really, is where you get to see the Red Hulk. Plus, because Black Widow, which was Scarlett Johansson's character, which her character dies in Endgame in the Marvel movies, okay? They have a sort of another Black Widow, but she's sort of an ex-widow from Russia, and her name is Sabra, and she's played by Shira Haas. And you'll know that it's her because she fights a lot like the Black Widow, we know in the other films. So she's sort of the Black Widow in this. And there's a lot of conversation in this film that they want to bring the Avengers back, not the Avengers, the original one. They just want to create a new Avengers team. That concept keeps getting brought up in the film. So I think we're seeing maybe some of the Avengers who are going to eventually become the new group of Avengers in other films that'll come after that, because I think that Brave New World is the first story in maybe a trilogy or something like that of films where there's going to be some big fight at the end, sort of like what happened in the previous films where they had, and it ended up into Endgame. Okay, so I think they're going to go and do that kind of story plot thing again, where there's an ultimate threat, because at the end of this film, okay, the leader kind of reveals that there's, you know, something to come that he knows about. Okay, so it kind of leaves this, you know, something big's going to happen later. So I think that, you know, this is like the first film in a bunch of films that's going to end with a big ending or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, I thought that, you know, the movie, it runs, I don't think it runs, it doesn't feel like it's a long movie because there's a lot happening on it. You got to pay attention to what's going on. And I think it's just the right length because it seems like everybody, all the characters get a fair amount of time. Okay. And, you know, you get to see a lot. And it's not a movie that's too difficult to follow. Okay. I mean, the story is a mystery kind of thing going on. Where you have to listen to the dialogue because it, you know, things are, you know, it's like a Sherlock Holmes kind of thing where you got to pay attention to what's going on, right? So, but it's not that difficult to follow, and it's a good story, I thought. And you know, having these new characters, well, you know, actually, you know, Sam Wilson is not like a new character. He was in it from the beginning. He just played a different superhero. But at the end of Endgame, he is handed the shield from Captain America. So it's the same character from that, but now he's Captain America. And so it just felt like, you know, there was a lot better story there for a first movie and a bunch of, you know, if there's a bigger story, it was a good first story for that. I don't know what's going to happen. They don't, you know, because there was so much going on. The thing that really didn't get covered too much was what the hell that thing in the ocean was, that big fucking statue thing, whatever the hell it was. You know, they don't explain, you know, where it came from or, you know, or anything like that. Maybe they did in some of the streaming stuff that Disney's been putting out. I don't know. I don't remember. I know I haven't seen every single thing because it's hard to keep up with all the shit they're making with Disney. You know, they're doing Star Wars and they're doing Marvel. They got all these things going on. So yeah, so there may have been a streaming movie, or there may have been something mentioned about something about it there. All I know was that in this movie, that's the focus of a lot of contention here in the story. And but I'm sure it's going to be an issue in films to come. And so, you know, maybe I ought to try to find out more about this thing. But it was a good film. I really enjoyed it. And, you know, if you're into Marvel stuff or these superhero kind of films, you know, I would say go, you know, see it. If you haven't seen it already, it's good. It's, you know, engaging. I liked it. It's got a lot of great moments in the film. And Harrison Ford and Anthony Mackie and all the actors, they did a great job, you know, with their roles and stuff like that. And, you know, I really can't give it enough praise, really, because, you know, like I said, the critics were shitting all over it before and after the movie even came out. And when I saw it, because I didn't listen to them, when I saw it, and then I heard the critics after I saw it, I was like, what, did they even watch the same film? You know, because for once, you know, the movie, this is a Marvel movie that didn't focus solely on just action, action, action. It had a story. And I was like, good. You know, for once, you know, we know what the hell, you know, is going on here and you know, what the hell's happening. You know, and it's an important thing. I mean, a lot of movies in the past that have been made that focused more on story than action, in my opinion, were better movies than the sequels or whatever they made after, where it was more action and less story. Okay? That's just me, of course. But when I watch a movie, you know, yeah, sure, it's fun to see action, you know, but if it's just mindless action and it doesn't have a whole lot to do with what's going on, then it's really boring. It makes the action meaningless, you know. And so I thought that in this there was a good balance of action and story to make it more relevant, you know, that it engages you into the action when it happens, okay? And that's the best kind of story. But, you know, audiences today are more fickle than they ever were. You know, I think they are anyway, because it doesn't seem like Hollywood can ever make anything without a ton of people bitching about it and shitting on it before the damn movie's released. And you know what, I'm at the point where I think, you know what? They should never release trailers anymore, period. I think what they ought to do is just announce we are making, you know, fill in the blank movie, and it's gonna come out whenever, and don't say a fucking thing about it. No trailers, no nothing. It just shows up in the theater, okay, when they say it's supposed to air, show up, and you either gonna go see it or you're not. But you know, you go in there with no expectation of whether the movie is gonna look good or bad. You just go. And I think that's really what they ought to do from now on, because people take so much from these trailers. And I'll tell you something else about the trailers these days. They give away way too much of the movie. They really do. I don't know how, you know, if you people notice that, but in the old days of Hollywood, you know what I'm talking, when I was a kid, the trailers didn't give you a whole lot of the story. They just took clips here and there, you know, action, this, action, okay, and then they left it at that. But today, a trailer could be like 2 minutes, even 3 minutes long, and it's like, you know, why are you giving away so much of the fucking story? Now everybody knows what to expect, and they're not even going to bother to watch it. Okay, and of course, the internet critics that go out there, what are they going to do? They're going to start carving it to pieces before they even see it. Okay, that certainly happened with the Star Wars sequel trilogy that came out way back. A lot of people had their opinions already cemented before that film even come out, whether they were going to hate it or like it. You know, and that was annoying because, you know, I wanted to see it, but every time I went on YouTube, they had like 10,000 goddamn people on there talking about the fucking movie before it was even out. And I'm like, you know what? This is ridiculous. You guys haven't seen it, and you've already established, I hate this film, and you haven't even seen it. No one's seen it. Okay? But there's too much of that now. And I think Hollywood needs to back off on the trailers, if not just stop them altogether, because I think it's hurting them financially when people are out there already formulating opinions about stuff that they haven't seen. I mean, think about it. Somebody writes a book, okay? No one's read it, but everybody's shitting on it, and now no one buys the book. Don't you think there's something illegal about that? You know, yeah, I know freedom of speech, First Amendment, and all that. But don't you think there ought to be some, like, you can't comment on this until after it's released? Maybe there should be some kind of rule like that, that no one is allowed to criticize or talk about a fucking film until after it's been released. When it's released, then you can talk about it. But before that, if you do that, you're hurting the company's financial, you know, revenue, okay? You're actually impacting them before the fucking material is out there, and that's not fair to them, okay? I think there ought to be some kind of rule about that, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, businesses trying to make money, and there's people out there trying to kick the legs out from under that, and it's gone too far, I think. It really has. I think it's gone way too far. So they really need to do something about controlling the public, their opinion, and the critics and all that. They really should not be allowed to make any judgments about a film until after it's been released. Okay? Sure, people like to know whether to waste their money to go see a film or not, but you know, it all depends on what you're interested in, right? If you see some names, actors that you like, maybe you'll go see it. Okay? Or maybe you'll just wait till someone else sees it, and then when they come back and talk about it and say how good it was and all that, then you can decide then, right? But until the movie comes out, okay, people shouldn't say a damn thing about it, you know? That's why when, you know, I hear about movies coming out, I don't say nothing about it until after I've seen it. When I see it, then you know you're getting an honest opinion about the film, okay? Because, yeah, I know what I like and don't like is going to be different than everybody else, okay? So that's why I say up front, you know, it's this movie and that. So those are the things that I like. Okay, so, but I won't talk about it until after it's been out for a while, okay? So I felt it was okay now to talk about Brave New World because I figure enough people's already saw it now. But I really enjoyed it. And if there's anybody out there watching this who hasn't seen it, then I think you should. I think I liked it, you know, and I think you will too. But if you're not into Marvel movies and superhero stuff, you'll probably be wasting your money, so don't go see it. Okay? But if you're young and you like these things and stuff and comic books, it's a good movie to watch. But I just thought it would be a good thing to review right now. I see that was it Star Trek Academy that's fixing to come out. I saw a trailer about that. I don't know if I'm going to watch that or not. Lately, the stuff coming from Paramount with Star Trek, like Discovery and Picard and all that, hasn't really been all that great. So I don't know what's going on with Paramount and all that. I think that they're spending big money on projects that they don't know is going to work. And that could be part of the reason why they had such financial issues and they had to merge with Skydance. And if they haven't learned their lesson about, hey, don't spend big fucking money on a project that gets little in return. If they don't stop doing that, this merger isn't going to help them at all. They're going to end up bankrupting the other company, So, so Star Trek hasn't really been delivering for me anyway, because I'm sort of an old school Trekker. And, the younger people that are watching it, well, if they're happy with it, fine, keep watching. But for me, it's not working for me, this new stuff. I just, it feels like they're trying to copy Marvel, DC kind of action and characters and stuff. Because I think they think that's a safe bet, that it'll sell better that way. So the style is all different on how they approach this franchise now. But I think Star Trek had its style. It had a style. It had a style that worked, and they should just go back to it. There was nothing wrong with it as it was. I think the problem was they did too much of it, and they needed to take a break for 20 years. Sort of like what happened, in that period during the 70s when the only thing on TV was the reruns of the old Star Trek. It was enough to keep interest alive. So when the first movie came out, it was like, woo, everybody was excited. But I think Paramount, they need to just stop, for a time. Just put it away. And then when you're ready, take it out, dust it off, and maybe there'll be more interest in it at that time. You need to make people interested in it. So I think they've done enough Star Trek here for Christ. There's enough. I mean, I sit and I think, I got like the Star Trek movies and TV shows. There's a lot of hours there of Star Trek. I mean, it's enough to keep, several generations entertained for years to come. There's no need to make these new things, and then because they wanted to make it different because, they figure we need a new recipe, they wouldn't have to do that if they'd have just, said, okay, that's it, this is it for now. Keep the interest going, and then when we come back, people will be ready for it, Instead, they spit out one series after another, and it's just, it just seems to irritate a lot of the fans, and a lot of the other fans are like, oh, it's okay, but it ain't that great. Okay, so I feel like this, the Star Trek Academy is, who knows? The concept of it doesn't interest me. Okay, they've tried to do an Academy kind of show before, but nobody seemed to be interested in it, and I don't think it really has, a potential there to show anything different. Okay. It's just a new location, same stuff, different location. But like I said, I haven't seen it. I don't know how good or bad it is. So I'm just personally not interested in seeing any new Star Trek. But for those of you that are younger and still enjoying it, then it's going to be a treat for you, I guess. I just won't be joining in on it. And then there's this Alien Earth. I don't know if you've seen any trailers for that. I mean, you can find them on YouTube, but this is a Hulu series that's coming out based on the Alien movies, okay? And the trailer shows a big spaceship, human ship, I guess, crashing on Earth. And apparently it's loaded with creatures from all over the universe, I guess, from what it was saying. And one of them creatures happens to be one of those xenomorphs. Okay, so hello. I'm not sure where in the timeline this story is supposed to take place. It's maybe after, you know, the Sigourney Weaver stuff, or maybe before. I have no idea. Can't answer that. The trailers made it look interesting. It's 10 episodes, I think, for this, or 11. Because you know how streaming series have very short seasons, and I don't like the ways we used to watch it growing up, where you had 25 episodes in a fucking season. But this one's got 11, and it's supposed to air on Hulu. If you got it, okay. It's coming out, I think, either late this year or early next year, I guess. They say they got it wrapped, which means it's all filmed, all 11 episodes. And so, you know, they're just going to, it'll come out sooner or later, I guess. But I might watch, you know, it, you know, and see how, if it's really any, if it's just more the same old face hugger, chest bursting and thousands of, you know what I'm saying, then it's really not going to be anything. I'm hoping that they have a new angle with this to give me a reason to watch it, other than just more blood, gore, and, you know, okay. I want to see something different out of this, okay. And you know, they promise that there will be some difference, so maybe that's, you know, worth watching the first episode or whatever. So I don't know. All I know is Ridley Scott's last 3 Alien prequels weren't all that great. I don't think they were, okay? It didn't answer a goddamn thing about anything. Okay, it started down the road where we might find out about the origin of the engineers and why they came to Earth and dumped that shit in the water, and you know, but all it did was create more questions that didn't have any answers. It didn't answer a fucking thing, you know. And in the next chapter, I mean, it just, you know, we run across the android and he's fucking with the aliens, and, you know, and then he's making, you know, kind of a whole legion of them, and, you know what I'm saying. And it doesn't connect at all to the first Alien film made in the 70s, okay, where we find that alien spaceship on that planet. It doesn't answer anything about that. How it got there, why it was there, why it was full of eggs. Okay, none of that was answered in any of those films. So I felt like it was a total waste. And it's like, you know, we really don't need to watch those 3 films. If you're going to watch Alien, you can skip all that. Just go right to the very first film, made in '79, I guess it came out. And from there, okay, because none of those prequel films really has anything at all to do with those other films. So I'm not sure what Ridley Scott was so keyed up on. He was, oh, making a trilogy, you know. He already planned out he was going to make 3 films, and it was going to have answer things, and it just didn't. It fucking didn't. And it's like, you know, I don't know what the hell he made here, okay? I mean, it looked like he was coming to, you know, making the effort in the first, what was it, Prometheus? It looked like he was going to create an answer. You know, he was giving you some material, but in the next 2 films, it just detached right from it. Like, you know, because people didn't like Prometheus as much as he hoped, he got panicky and he decided to change the narrative, I guess, maybe halfway through. So I don't know, but I'm hoping that this Hulu streaming series will do much more than Ridley Scott could with the prequel movies that he did. I hope they can, you know, maybe try to answer something of that about the engineers and all that shit. You know, I don't know. it might be more than 11 episodes of this is going to be able to cover, but they ought to try if that's in the works, because I think we really missed out on something interesting in the Alien storyline about the engineers. Because remember, we found this pilot sort of you know, in the first Alien movie that was in the ship, that sort of kind of decayed into his chair, you know, and it was like, you know, what was going on? Why, you know, why is he here? We never know that. Okay, so I'm hoping maybe they'll somehow maybe answer that. You know, I don't know. It'd be nice if they, you know, if they could say something about it. But yeah. Anyway, so you know, those shows are coming out. And there was some other ones that I saw that I can't remember now. It seems like a lot of what's coming out is like adaptations to things that have already been out, like adaptations to movies that were popular, and now they want to do a TV show or a streaming show on it. Again, it's more of the same. Hollywood doesn't have anything original to give you. They're just playing on the old franchises because it's safe. You know, they don't have to worry that maybe it won't make any money. Problem is they're making a lot of these things and they aren't making money because people are not finding what they like in those things that they did like when they were originally out. You know, like the Star Wars films. You know, okay, people like Star Wars. They just don't like a lot of the new stuff being made now because it doesn't seem to connect at all with what they like. So. Like I said, it's just more of the same kind of stuff that they're doing now. But what the hell else is on TV to watch these days? You know, I mean, it's just it's either that or a bunch of sitcoms that don't make you laugh anymore. You know, they used to be funny, but now they're not. You know, so they're really. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I mean. Personally, I've been watching a lot of old films. When I mean old, I mean before I was even born. Films like, you know, in the 40s and the 30s and stuff. They had actors that, you know, they were still acting when I was born in the 70s. So, you know, so I'm seeing these actors when they were younger in older films. You know, I've been kind of enjoying those things. YouTube's got a whole bunch of those on there. So I've been kind of watching things there because, hey, there's a lot more to these older films that's original than anything that's that's putting out now. Okay, I think so anyway. I just wish somebody would just come up with an idea that hasn't been done before. I don't even know if that's possible. I mean, could someone argue that everything that could be written has been written? you know what I'm saying? I mean, because if you go into any library, you're going to find it's filled with books, right? And you can't imagine anybody writing something that has never been written before, right? So is it possible that there's nothing left to make a movie about that hasn't already been made in some form or other before? You know, I don't know. I'm starting to think that maybe there is. I mean, there's a limit, you know. Even in the realm of imagination, when it comes to science fiction, maybe, you know, a lot of things have already been done, and people are just going to see every movie now, from now on, as, oh, this has been done. This is a remake. That's a remake. You know, I feel like, you know what, you know, we need to get some people with some really neat imaginations out there. And I think some of these books that people overlook in the bookstores, these paperbacks with these science fiction stories, I think some people need to go into those things and really say, you know what, yeah, they only made one entry into this. You know, it's a standalone story. So why don't we make a movie on it? Because, you know, nobody's really seen it or read it. And maybe that would be something, you know, they can do. Instead of just relying on a hand-picked bunch of people that they rely on, I guess, for for films ideas and stuff like that, maybe they ought to just do that and say, look, let's go to the bookstore and find something in there that we can do a movie about, you know, that looks something original that hasn't been done already. You know, they ought to give it a shot. I mean, there's got to be ideas that haven't been done yet. There has to be. There has to be. You know, and that's the whole point of, like, with the, you know, when these videos that I do here, you know, these science fiction things, is that, you know, their imagination should be allowed to be expressed, and no matter what it is that you're thinking about, it should be out there. People should explore it, you know, and you know, hoping one day somebody will come out with a new thing, and it will create a whole new franchise of something else. It's not impossible. They can do it if they want, you know. Maybe when the studios get tired of losing money, maybe then they'll start to take more leaps of faith, you know. So who knows? Anyway, that's it. So I hope everybody takes care, and I'll talk to you guys in another video on this, so I'll talk to you later.